30 years. 30 years. And this was the best they came up with. I've been struggling to figure out what I was going to say about this movie. While I was thinking about that, I went to HEB today, Texas represent, to get my daughter some sushi because she loves sushi, even though I think it's gross. I think she eats it just to gross me out. I was using the self-checkout because I have anxiety and people frighten me. And while I was there, I happened to see one of my former students working. After the customary and somewhat awkward greeting, he said, "Hey, that's a nice shirt." It was this shirt, by the way. And yeah, I admit, I do have an amazing sense of style. I believe the children call it mad drip. And then he looks at me and he says, "Have you seen it yet?" It, of course, being the new and long-awaited Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I didn't say a word, but I guess there was just this tiny micro expression on my face that gave it completely away, and he just looked at me as if I just stabbed his dog in the face with a hammer and just said, "No." And that's it. That's the review. That's how Beetlejuice Beetlejuice made me feel. No. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a 2024 comedy sequel to the classic supernatural comedy of the same name minus one, Beetlejuice. This movie stars Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, and Jenna Ortega. Ortega plays a perpetually depressed young woman who hates everyone and wears black all the time. It's so great to see her expanding her range. In the movie, Lydia and her family journey back to the town of Winter River and their old home from the first movie, when Charles Dietz dies. It's curious that Jeffrey Jones doesn't appear in this movie at all. Wonder what happened to him. I hope it's nothing serious. Oh my God! Anyway, Jeffrey Jones is dead. Scratch that. Jeffrey Jones should be dead. No. Charles Dietz is dead, and the Dietz family return to his home to pay their final respects and sell the house. Only it's not that easy, as ghostly happenings commence, and the ghost with the most returns. There's more to the story, and I'll get into that in just a moment, but I really have a problem with calling Beetlejuice the ghost with the most now, because in this movie, he's more like the ghost with just enough to get by. And yes, I know, Michael Keaton is 73 years old. He's 3 years older than my own father, and he's not as quick or as spry as he used to be. And neither is Michael Keaton. And it's just kind of sad. I mean, there's a low-energy Beetlejuice here. It's kind of like watching Life with Lucy back in the mid-'80s with Lucille Ball. She was still funny, but you could tell that her prime had long since passed. I'm kind of exaggerating when I say that. Life with Lucy was not funny. Not at all. Did you watch it? That's all right. Nobody else did either. So before I list my problems with this movie in order of greatest pettiness, I have to say this is a welcome return to visual form, at least, for Tim Burton, who brings back his weird and wacky wild side with reckless abandon. This isn't the neutered, Disneyfied mind that we've seen the last couple of decades. You actually get the feeling that Tim Burton had a genuine passion and fire for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice because he poured every bit of his strange soul into this movie. However, it never quite matches his best works. And, if you really expected it to, you're kind of foolish. But looking through all of this movie's failings, you cannot look at this film and deny that it at least looks good, because it looks darn good. I also have to say that I respect the fact that Beetlejuice largely stays clear of rehashing the plot of the original movie or diving too deep into pointless nostalgia just for nostalgia's sake. The story is notably different and does something totally divergent with this sequel, opening up the afterlife in bigger and more interesting ways. And yeah, that's all the positivity I have. Let's talk about why this movie was a letdown. First and foremost, let's talk about the story. It is a mess, an absolute mess. You can see the problems with it in the first 10 minutes as it clumsily jerks from one scene to the other and back again and back again. And while it does get better at managing itself later on, these are red flags that really never quite stop waving. Beetlejuice throws a lot of balls into the air, and instead of juggling them masterfully, it just kind of stands there doing this kind of motion while the balls fall all around it, a few bouncing off of its own head. It's just not as skilled at crocheting the plot threads that it leaves lying around into a comfy blanket, so to speak. And the most shocking example of this is Beetlejuice's ex-wife Dolores, who we've seen all over the promotional materials and commercials. What a great design! Monica Bellucci genuinely looked like she was having a fantastic time and delivers a fun performance, but when you get to the end of this movie, you come to the sobering and somewhat disturbing realization that you could have completely plucked Dolores from this film and it would have changed hardly anything. She ends up being such a nothing character that you have to wonder why they even bothered to put her in the movie at all. Literally, all she does is wander the afterlife, grabbing random spooks and demanding, "Where is Beetlejuice?" Only to find him at the end and then nothing. Literally nothing. She menaces for maybe 20 seconds and that's it. She's gone. That is literally it. It's not even meant as a subversive joke. The movie just kind of goes, meh, and throws her away. Beetlejuice and Dolores have maybe 30 seconds of interaction at the end of this movie, and it ultimately means nothing. Nothing at all. Why did the writers not notice this? And that's not the only particularly problematic piece of the puzzle from this putrid poltergeist pellicula that I found puzzling. The one part of this movie that I found genuinely interesting was the entire reason, let's say, that Astrid, Lydia's daughter, ended up in the afterlife in the first place. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I'm going to do that later on the VHS vault because there is a lot of junk that I need to get off my chest, so be sure to look for that. Because, yeah, I have to give away plot points to talk about these, even if they are as predictable as the sunrise. But a lot like Dolores, this entire plot that I did find interesting is wadded up and discarded. Like it means nothing. It was literally just a means to get one character physically from one place to another. It wasn't even needed. It really wasn't. You could have come up with a more efficient way of doing that. I'm going to have a ball on the VHS vault. And I'm pretty sure VHS Jace will too, because he's kind of a grump. Be sure to catch that next week on this channel, or several weeks ago if you're seeing this video beyond next week. Greetings, future! Who wins the election? Oh, I understand that people change over the course of 30 years, but can we also talk about the shameless character assassination committed against Lydia? Where in the first movie she's a dark and depressed goth girl, or is it an emo girl? I'm sure somebody will take the time to let me know in the comments, and I honestly can't wait to read the difference. In this movie, Lydia is now a clairvoyant who uses her gifts to star in a ghost hunting TV show. She's also traumatized because she keeps seeing Beetlejuice everywhere, and to be honest, this whole traumatizing thing wears thin very quickly. Come on, guys, it's a comedy! It's like they've drained Lydia of all the confidence in life that she developed in the first film and then replaced her with a woman that things just happen to. She's a victim being cast against rock after rock and only rarely taking any initiative, and that initiative usually just boils down to her getting someone else to help her. Heck, even during the climax, she does nothing. She stands there. Her daughter ends up saving her with the handbook for the recently deceased. A handbook that no one could understand in the first movie, but Astrid reads and becomes an expert on in less than 45 seconds just so she can save the day. No spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers. VHS Vault, watch it. It's also incredibly weird that Charles Dietz's character, the dad who died, is used as an emotional linchpin in this movie because, obviously they were not going to get Jeffrey Jones back. Not that he was going to refuse the role, it's just they didn't want him back. But they chose to use, let's just call it a stand-in. And it's a stand-in that's a little bit desperate for audience reaction. Occasionally it works, but only very occasionally, and when the movie does try to make the stand-in's presence an actual emotional, meaningful thing, it fails miserably. Again, you could have left Charles Dietz completely out of the movie. Just say, oh, he's dead. We don't know where he's at. And it wouldn't have made a bit of difference. No. It would have made some difference. It would have made the movie better. And listen, I know that if I was expecting anything on par with the original Beetlejuice, I was going to be disappointed because Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies of all time. And in my humble opinion, one of the best comedies ever made. From the very beginning, when we hear that Danny Elfman score, it was brimming with fire and weirdness, populated by high-energy characters and manic performances. Perfectly paced, perfectly directed, and perfectly managing multiple plot threads. It was a movie that was turned up to 11. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is turned up to a place somewhere between 6 and 7. Where old people put the volume at. And a lot like its predecessor, you get that vibe with the opening credits, because now they're using a somewhat more low-energy version of the theme, as though it's being played on a Walkman with low batteries, which is indicative of what this movie's like. Everyone, everything, except for the sets and the directing, has low batteries, and it's just sad. Again, I was not expecting anything on par with Beetlejuice or better than Beetlejuice, but I was at least looking forward to a movie where I could say, well, it wasn't as good, but it's still a good movie, and it's just not. No, I'm not into hyperbole. I'm not into rage bait. I'm not going to sit here and say that Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a disastrously bad movie, because it's not. It's weak. Think about movies like Dumb or Dumberer, or Independence Day Resurgence, or Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is heads and scales better than those turds. But you get that same feeling of disappointment when you watch it, thinking, man, it's been 3 decades and this is the best they could come up with? Again, not bad. It's not horrible. I'm not mad at you, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I'm just deeply disappointed with your choices. This was the best they could do. This made me wish that Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian or Beetlejuice in Love actually got made, those abandoned sequel ideas that were kicked around back in the 90s. I really think that they would have been better sequels than what we got with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, I know you hear that and you're like, ew. But think Beetlejuice meets Gidget or Beach Blanket Bingo. That would have been wild. And I will take wild over mild any day. Sorry, I really wish I had better news. I just feel like I'm letting down so many people. And I'm used to that, but I really wanted this to be a worthy sequel, but it just looks like it's going to be nothing more than a footnote, which is truly a shame. You want to know what else is a shame? Not subscribing to this channel. If you're finding me for the first time and you like what you see, you don't want to lose me forever, do you? Don't answer that. just take a moment to subscribe so you can keep getting all this. Sorry, that just made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. While you're at it, hit that notification icon so you can be the first to know when I post new trash on my channel. You can do it now. I'll wait. How long is this going to take? If you do want to see more, consider getting therapy, or at least becoming a channel member or Patreon, just like my fine friends here who deliver a pittance to me every month just so I can make what I laughably call my art. You too can join my fam for as little as $5 a month, or more. Paid subscribers get almost all of my videos early, sometimes weeks early. Check out the video descriptions below or my channel page to find out how you can become a supporter and enabler of me. And stop being a deadbeat who takes and takes and takes and gives nothing back because you don't want to be a deadbeat. Do you? I feel like I'm doing a telethon right now, but you know what? Suffer. Supporting this channel helps me create original content like Jason Watches, Saturday and His Amazing Friends, Will It Tumble, The VHS Vault, The Power of J-Skull, Triple XL Men, Double XL Men. I know I'm fat, but I'm not that fat. Jalapeno and Breaking Wind, plus something new I'm working on, and I hope I will be able to get off the ground soon. I don't want to overhype it, but I'm pretty sure it'll be the greatest thing on YouTube ever. Finally, if you want those sweet, spoilery thoughts on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice that I kept threatening you with during this review, be sure to check out a special edition of the VHS Vault. I know I'm going to be talking about it, and I'm going to have thoughts and feelings, and VHS Jace is also going to have thoughts and feelings because he's a grump. We're also going to be joined by David Jones. He's an actor. You've probably seen him recently in movies like M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. He was in the recent seasons of The Boys and The Umbrella Academy, and you're going to see him in the upcoming Star Trek Section 31, so be sure to join us. We got actual talent on the show this time, which is a huge change. And so, until we see each other again, my friends, join us next time for another exciting edition of Jason Watches. Hopefully the next one won't be quite as disappointing. I think that's what my parents said after they decided to have another child.